Hello and welcome to the Real Estate Regroup Show. I am your host, LJ Walker. Well, guys, I was watching something on Facebook and then I went to YouTube to confirm that Perfecting Faith Church out in Detroit, it's taken them 20 years to rebuild. So I was like, yeah, we need to look into this. See, that church is actually a church that my aunt goes to. So, I had to figure out if everything was all right. Typically, mega churches take 4 to 7 years to rebuild. So 20 years? Yeah, that's a long time. All right, so here's what I found out that definitely contradicts a lot of things that's being said online about them. First of all, the church has 4,000 to 4,500 members. The existing building is too small. I've heard some people say, the building is not too small. Why are they building something else? Why are they trying to expand? No, it is too small. And as proof, the city of Detroit actually sued them. If you look at the lawsuit, one of the parameters is that the building isn't small enough, and the fact that the development has stalled, it's unfinished, and what have you. So to say that there is no need or no reason for Reverend or Pastor Winans to rebuild, that's not true. That's not true. I know Pastor Winan said that God told him to do it. Since I was not part of that conversation, I'm not going to get into that issue. However, it is documented in the courts that the current building is too small for the amount of people that go to that church. So that other YouTuber and those other YouTubers who are saying different, I beg to differ. Because I don't believe that the city would waste their time, energy, and money to go after a church for something like that. All right. Now, and that actually, the city taking them to court and suing them is actually one of the reasons why it is taking so long. Okay. Things are not done overnight. When it comes to something like this, it's not like what you see on TV when you're watching Judge Judy, where she comes up with a verdict in 10 minutes. No. When it comes to stuff like this, it can take years. And in this case, it did take years. And that's one of the reasons why it is taking so long. But there are other reasons, and let's go through them. Okay. There was a time, I believe 2008, that's when we had a housing crash. That's when a lot of people lost their jobs. So people weren't able to, let's say, probably give money. This is my speculation based on the facts, historical facts, probably weren't able to give the money that was needed in order to finish the project way back then, right? So that is definitely an issue, okay? Then when it comes to this is a complicated project because it's not just the church that they wanted to build. They wanted to build affordable housing. They wanted to build a school, administrative building, and gardens, etc., etc., etc. It's like they wanted to build a city within a city, if you will. So in order to do that, you need to consider what the zoning is for that particular area. And from what we do know, they needed to get rezoning approval in order to add on the school, the amphitheater, the gardens, and all of this other stuff. All right. And rezoning can be a slow process because it requires going into public hearings, going to community boards, getting approval before moving forward. And that is something that will delay construction. Okay. Not to mention, for whatever reason, there were construction stoppages. And sometimes this happens because, unfortunately, in this business, a lot of contractors cannot be trusted. That's number one. Number two, a lot of times churches, they will have a contractor that is within their congregation, and sometimes they rely on them to help them out, and that person may not have enough time to devote to help rebuild the church. Or really, it's not even rebuilding, because they really were starting from the ground up. So this is real estate development. This is not even a fix and flip. This is something totally different. So it is going to take longer. Not normally 20 years, but it is going to take longer for that particular reason. Okay. Then, in addition to zoning approvals, you may need to get like certain other licenses. You have to go through inspections and things like that. All right. That can be an issue. Money, I mean, I know that it takes a lot of money to do something like this on a grand scale. I don't know how much money the church actually pulls in on a regular basis. A lot of times it varies, because let's be honest, everybody in the church does not tithe. Everybody that goes to church does not give offering. And from what I understand, he did get some help from big names such as Tyler Perry, for example, who gave, I believe, about $100,000 at one particular point. So these type of things matter. The population loss of Detroit, that's another thing. So even though 4,500 is the membership, right? When it comes to who visits, that probably is a number that fluctuates. And let's remember, Detroit at one time in 2013 did file for bankruptcy. So when it comes to getting funding such as grants from the city, such as permits and things like that, that would have definitely hampered them and slowed them down. All right. I also believe there may have been some structural issues. And he mentioned, as far as like obtaining certain material and what have you, it took a while. Okay. So these are things that you really have to think about before you rush to judgment to put anybody down. And I'm not trying to play favorites just because it's a church and because I'm Christian and because it's my aunt's church. Trust me, it's not that. But I just feel as though, yes, it definitely, I'm glad that you guys brought it to my attention. Sorry for the noise in the background. Boy. But, but, you do have to put things in perspective before you paint it with a broad brush and say, you think you smell a scam. All right. Now, I will say this. I do think that there was poor project management because of the repeated redesigning that needed to be done. There was administrative delays and then the funding challenges that occurred. I think it is safe to say that they may not have always hit the budget. He himself said that he had to scale back in order to complete the project, if you will. There is also evidence that there was not a professional construction manager that was involved. There wasn't a dedicated project management firm that was involved. The timeline was unrealistic in addition to everything else that had occurred. Now, when it came to there were long periods, they say, where there was no construction activity at all. So a lot of times that is due to permit delays, disagreements when it comes to leadership, or leadership disagreeing with what needs to go where, and things of that nature. And I dealt with that with my flips, where the general manager and the plumbers did not agree. They did not get along, and that did help hold up the flipping that I was doing. So can you imagine? This is developing from the ground up. This is different. You understand? So yeah, that is an issue. And going to court, that takes away out of the money that could have been used to finish the property earlier is now being used to go to court. Yeah, I knew Detroit was that way though, because when we had went out there and they told us about the land bank, they told us something about, I can't recall because this was back in 2014. It was either 6 months or 1 year we had after we bought the property to fix it up. And if we didn't fix it up within that time frame, they were going to fine us. So I know from personal experience, when it comes to residential, they're that way. But I didn't know that they was that way when it comes to developing from the ground up. I thought that they didn't have that rule. But obviously they have it across the board, But I'm pretty sure, though, that it's not 1 year for the church. I'm pretty sure that they had it longer. They just didn't have it for 20 years. Yeah, that's definitely due to some poor planning, not just the city. All right. I would even go so far to say maybe they were a little overly ambitious with this, because see, all right, hear me out, because I believe in God, right? And I do believe that he talks to people. But I think that sometimes we don't properly plan out what God has for us. And sometimes we don't even listen to the plan. We hear him say, "Oh, go and do this." But he should be the one ordering our steps. And sometimes we don't listen to him when he gives us steps to do. We just say, "Oh, you want us to do that? Oh, we will go ahead and do it." And that's only sometimes, because sometimes he'll tell us to do something and we won't do it at all because we're scared. And that's real talk. That's real talk. So yeah, guys, some of the information that you're getting on the internet, unfortunately, I am not in total agreement with it. But with all due respect, the people who are giving you that advice, they're coming from it, particularly the other pastors, they're coming from a minister glasses. I'm coming through this with real estate glasses. And I may not know everything when it comes to building from the ground up, because I've never done development before. But I know a little something with the experience that I do have. Okay. Another thing that was mentioned, and one of the reasons why they say they think that there's a scam, is because I don't know how his name got attached to it, but they said Messner, I don't know how to say his name, but they say he was involved. So for those of you who don't know, Messner is in the business of building churches. And he was at one point found guilty of bankruptcy fraud. However, I could not find where he is linked in with building Perfecting Faith Church. So I'm not 100% sure how his name got tied up in it. Maybe it is, and I just don't see it anywhere. And if that is the case, I can understand why people say, oh, this must be a scam because 20 years and nothing is done. It's still not finished. I can understand that, but I don't see it. I don't see his name nowhere. So I'm not sure how his name got attached. I don't know if it was an assumption that because he's a church builder and because these people are building a church, if they thought that the two were connected, but actually they're not. And there really isn't so far any evidence or criminal charges when it comes to this situation with Perfecting Faith Church. Okay, the city lost the case. They did not win. So that says something. That means something to me. So guys, that is all I wanted to share. Feel free to drop down in the comments and let me know how you feel about all of this right here. What say you? All right. Oh, let me just add this, because this was a little annoying for me. And that is, I don't like it when churches get a little too churchy when it comes to business. When we're in the church and we're talking about God, great. And yes, God is involved in this. But if someone asks you, why is it taking so long? What's going on? What's happening? Speaking in tongues, that's not the time for that. Outside of the church, especially. That's not the time for that. No, when I ask you, what is the timeline? How much does this cost and how much that costs? I don't want you going in tongues. The only tongue I want you to use is English, and I want you to tell me how much it is, when it's going to get here, how much of it that we need. And this is a problem that I see with a lot of churches, and this is why a lot of real estate people who are professional, do not want to deal with do not want to deal with churches. And to be honest, a lot of churches don't want to deal with us either. They don't. Because we might not necessarily be flashy or have the charisma. And sometimes what they will do is they will choose the person with the charisma over the person who has genuine character to start and finish these type of projects. And I know that this is one of the problems that is occurring in this particular situation, even though I am not there. Okay? All right. So guys, now I'm finished. Please feel free to share this amongst your friends. Remember, each one reach one, teach one. Bye for now. Until next time, have a good night.